We've got the latest trade and NFL draft rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers on today's edition of Steelers Talk. 3 new wide receiver trade targets to talk about today, as well as 2 top prospects in the NFL draft. I'm going to be breaking down their scouting reports and how they could potentially fit with the black and gold heading into 2024. Now, before we get into today's news and rumors action, if you haven't already, go give me a follow on X or Instagram right now, wherever you're on social media. I'm at Jack_Sperry on X and at SpareDog.football on Instagram. And you know what? We're doing a special promotion today and throughout the weekend. Every person that gives me a follow over the weekend on X, so at Jack_Sperry, is going to get a shout out on Monday's edition of Steelers Talk. All right, so if you want a shout out, you want to get your name on the show, all these different things, all you got to do is go to X right now at Jack_Sperry and give me a follow. So now let's go into today's top story, which is that Andrew Filliponi is reporting that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had internal discussions, whatever that means, about trading for wide receiver Tee Higgins within the division. All right, so this is what Andrew had to say about this rumor. The Steelers have had internal discussions about trading for Bengals wide receiver Tee Higgins. They love the player, but there's questions about acquisition cost and his next contract cost. Plus, there's the issue of the Bengals trading him in the AFC North. So listen, man, there is no way this actually happens, that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to trade a star wide receiver in Tee Higgins to their arch rival in the division in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they'd be crazy to do that, all right? We know that. Now, obviously, if you're the Steelers, you take advantage of that if you can. But as much as the Steelers may want Tee Higgins on their team and as much as they'd be willing to offer, I'm not sure if the Bengals would even entertain the possibility. I mean, there's lots of teams out there that could use a number one receiver. New England, Buffalo, all these different teams in the league that need a number one receiver. Jacksonville's another team. I mean, there's just too many teams out there that are desperate for a number one wide receiver. And if they want to trade Higgins, I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh isn't the only place that they can send him, all right? So if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you have a rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers that is desperate to add a star wide receiver, why would you oblige them? It makes no sense from their perspective. So there's no way Tee Higgins becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2024. However, watch out for next offseason, all right? Because Tee Higgins is definitely somebody that is projecting that he's a little bit upset with the Cincinnati Bengals at this point, not giving him the money that he believes that he deserves, and he's slated to be a free agent in 2025. So if he hits the open market and he isn't traded by the trade deadline this year and he's going to be hitting the open market, I could absolutely see Higgins calling up the Pittsburgh Steelers early next offseason and being like, you know what, I want to play the Cincinnati Bengals twice a year, and I want to show them what's what, all right? So I could certainly see next offseason being the plan for Tee Higgins. Keep him in mind here, especially if something doesn't happen in terms of a long-term contract there in Cincinnati, because I could absolutely see him in black and gold in 2025. Now let's shift over to some other wide receiver options to trade for this year, because you're not going to get Higgins this year, but you definitely still need to add a legitimate number 2 receiver next to George Pickens in this rotation for Russell Wilson to take advantage of. And Nick Farabaugh from Steelers Now has linked 2 trade targets to the Steelers that we haven't discussed yet on the channel, and I wanted to discuss them with you guys today. The first one is Treylon Burks, former first-round pick out of Arkansas, with the Tennessee Titans. Now, of course, the Titans signed Calvin Ridley to a big-time contract in free agency. And Farabaugh is saying, hey, man, with Ridley in, that might kick Treylon Burks out a little bit, and the Steelers could get him pretty darn cheap. This is what Farabaugh had to say. A former first-round pick who was supposed to replace A.J. Brown, Burks has not clicked yet with the Titans, but his dense frame and noted yards after the catch ability are all reminiscent of what Smith likes in his wide receivers, so it would be no surprise if the team checked in on Burks, who might be on the outs after Calvin Ridley slotted into the lineup next to DeAndre Hopkins. Burks would not cost much, but he is also not proven and does not fully check off the boxes to get a true upgrade in the building. But it does seem like Tennessee is at least has him on the outs unless he can step up and prove to the new staff that he is worthy of being the number 3 wide receiver. So realistic, yes, but it does not check off a ton of boxes for the Steelers. Now, I would say that probably the most likely trade scenario is that the Steelers would probably give up as little as possible in terms of draft capital to get Treylon Burks in the building because he just isn't proven, all right? So it'd probably be your final draft pick this year, which is a 6th-round pick, 195th overall. That's probably what the Steelers would offer if they are interested in Treylon Burks. He is a fit for this offense, so let me know down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade if you were Steelers GM Omar Khan? Give me an A if you would accept it, or type D if you would decline it. This is going to be today's pinned comment, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time, but give me an A or a D down there in the comments. Personally, guys, I would decline this trade offer because I just don't really feel the need to add Treylon Burks to this offense as a number 2 wide receiver option, and I'd probably rather get somebody in the NFL draft as opposed to trading a 6th-round pick for Burks. You look at his numbers over last year here, 16 receptions, just 221 yards, no touchdowns. So this is definitely not somebody that is consistent. He has not proven himself on an NFL field, and he can't stay healthy. That's another thing with Burks that scares the hell out of me if you end up trading for him and you're relying on him to be your number 2 wide receiver option. Now, I think Pittsburgh needs definitely a more established presence at wide receiver too, whether that be like a bona fide stud like a Brandon Aiyuk, whether that be somebody in the draft, either in round 1, 2, or 3. You need to get somebody a little bit more established, in my opinion. And I just don't think Treylon Burks is that kind of guy. Now let's go over to the second potential wide receiver trade target that Faribault lists in his article here, which is Robert Woods, number 4 receiver right now for the Houston Texans. Actually, you can make an argument number 5 receiver. This is what Faribault had to say about Bobby Trees. The Houston Texans' wide receiver room is now deep and loaded after the Stephon Diggs trade, so naturally this could be a possible place to look for a trade. Woods played alongside Nico Collins and 2023 rookie Tank Dell as Houston's top 3 receivers. With the addition of Diggs, one of them will be pushed out, and it could be Woods because of his cap hit and relative lack of production last season. In 2023, Woods was 4th on the Texans in receiving yards with 426, well behind Collins, Dell, and Noah Brown, who stepped into a starting role after Dell broke his leg mid-season. Woods is entering the final season of a 2-year contract. His salary cap hit would be reduced to $6.25 if he's traded, with the Texans saving that amount and absorbing a $3.25 million dead cap hit. Houston isn't necessarily in dire salary cap straits, but that's a large hit for a number 4 wide receiver. And just like Treylon Burks, guys, I would expect a trade to be a low draft pick. All right, day 3, last pick of the draft that you currently possess, number 195. Robert is somebody that's getting older. His production has definitely dipped, so I can't imagine that the asking price, especially for what is right now the 4th or 5th receiver on the depth chart there in Houston, is going to be all that expensive. Now, coming up here, I'm going to let you know if I would trade for Bobby Trees. I'll let you know that here in just a second, but before I get into that, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Prize Picks has specials for new and returning users alike for the start of the MLB season when you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today. Football season is over. It's been over for a while now, but the action on the diamond is just heating up. Get in on the excitement now with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your baseball knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you really know ball. The 2024 MLB season is now off and running, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money from the comfort of your couch while you watch your favorite team play every single night. Prize Picks is simple. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more or pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. So personally, guys, I'm not trading for Robert Woods either, all right? I wasn't a big fan of the Treylon Burks idea. I'm not a fan of the Robert Woods trade idea either, because if you trade for him, you're getting him as your number 2 receiver, and plain and simply over the last couple of years, the production has definitely dipped for Mr. Trees himself. You look at the last couple of seasons here, he's had a tough time staying healthy in 2 out of those 3 seasons. The touchdown production really isn't there. The yardage production isn't really there. So Robert Woods is somebody that's a decent fit for this system. He's been a good run blocker throughout his career, a decent route runner, decent hands. Like, he's never been really a true number one guy, even in his prime. But right now, I think he's absolutely cooked, right? He's dealt with a number of injuries. He did not play well last year. I mean, young guns like Nico Collins and Tank Dell really asserted themselves as better options than Robert last year. And I don't really think a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers that's trying to win Super Bowls now is going to be like, yeah, let's bring in a declining wide receiver, probably in the twilight of his career, to be our number 2 option for Russell Wilson. I just don't think that that is something that would be very wise for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into next year. So now, I want to shift from trade rumors to draft rumors here, where there's 2 top draft targets that are being mocked to the Pittsburgh Steelers that I really like, and I want to talk about their scouting reports from my perspective and what I've seen on film. So let's start with Alabama cornerback Terrion Arnold, and CBS Sports in their most recent mock draft have the Steelers taking Arnold with their first round selection. This is what the author of this mock draft, Chris Trapazzo from CBS, had to say. Terrion Arnold to the Steelers would be tremendous. He feels like a Steelers defender. He does everything well and plays with authority as a tackler. Now, you look at the normal checklist that you want to see for a first-round selection for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, keep in mind, Omar Khan's doing things a little bit differently. He hasn't been going to a lot of pro days this year, but this is usually the checklist that you want to see all 4 things for the Steelers to take a player in round 1. So, formal combine meeting, you can check that. Tomlin and Khan at the Alabama Pro Day. You can check that. They had a Pro Day dinner with him the night before. Check that one off. The only thing that Arnold is missing is a top 30 visit to the city of Pittsburgh. All right, so you look at my scouting report with Arnold. I think that he does a lot of things really well. All right, the short area quickness is elite. I think the speed is good, but not elite. The long speed, that is. The versatility. He can play outside, and I believe he can be really, really good in the slot. He plays with excellent ball skills, great instincts to find the football, intercept passes, PBUs, all these different things that you want your starting corners to do. And then also he plays with great physicality. He's not necessarily the biggest guy in the world, but he's definitely got the right mentality. He's going to put his face in the fan. He's going to be a good, solid tackler. That's what they do there at Alabama. Really well coached. Now, the cons with Terrion is he's still a little bit raw. It's not like he's a multi-year starter with the Crimson Tide, so there are moments on last year's film where he's still a bit raw, and there's some frustrating moments in both zone and in his press technique, but he's got all the physical tools that you look for. He has the arm length you look for. Long speed is good enough, and then the short area quicks are fantastic, and he pairs that with really good instincts in coverage, both in zone and especially in man coverage. I have a top 20 grade on him, and you can just see his relative athletic score, man, in the 92nd percentile, all right? So you can see the long speed isn't like fantastic. It's a 4.5, but the 10-yard split, super explosive at 1.52. So the short area burst is really, really there. And, whether the Steelers want to put him in the slot to start his career, which is probably what he would do with Dante Jackson here in town, I think Arnold would be an excellent day 1 slot corner, and then he has the versatility to be like a true number 2 corner where if you're in your base sets, which is the Steelers run more base than any defense in the National Football League, he can be a true outside corner, but then when they get into their nickel and their dime sets, Arnold can kick in inside and provide that much-needed versatility that we know Mike Tomlin loves. Right now, I have Terrion Arnold ranked as my number 2 cornerback in the NFL draft class this year, only second to Quinion Mitchell, who I have an insanely high grade on. Cooper DeJean is right there with him, in my opinion, because they both have that versatility skill set. Nate Wiggins, I like him. I really think that he might have the second highest upside out of anybody in this class with his elite long speed, but he is a little bit undersized, all these different things. I would put him 4th, and Kool-Aid McKinstry is somebody that I would actually put in this grouping of top cornerbacks. I think he's really good in one-on-one coverage and in press man coverage, which is exactly what the Steelers are looking for in a cornerback as well. So my take here on taking Terrion Arnold in round 1 is that if the Steelers want to do that and take a DB, I think Arnold is probably the number 1 guy on my list because I don't think Mitchell is going to be there for you. at number 20. I think he's going to be a bona fide top 15 pick, but Arnold could potentially fall to you at number 20. And if you want to go corner, he's probably the guy that I would choose. Now, you guys know me. If you've been watching the show, I want an offensive lineman, namely an offensive tackle, probably a Marius Mims, Talise Fuanga, Troy Fontenot, somebody like that, because I think offensive tackle is a major need. But if you want to go corner, Terrion Arnold is probably the guy. Now let's shift over to another draft target that I really like in round 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is Roman Wilson out of Michigan. And ESPN's Field Yates just put out his most recent mock draft where he has Graham Barton going in round 1. Mel Kiper Jr., his colleague there at ESPN, also has Barton to the Steelers at number 20, by the way. But then he takes Roman Wilson at number 51. And this really intrigues me because Wilson is a really good player, in my opinion. In most draft classes, I think he'd probably be maybe a late first round, super early round 2 guy. Now, his lack of size might make him a slot-only guy, and he's not necessarily the most dynamic with the ball in his hands in open space. It's not like he's making guys miss all the time or anything like that, but the route running is superb. He's got reliable hands, great toughness over the middle of the field, and really good long speed as well. So he's got the quicks, he's got the long speed, really good route runner, and super reliable hands, especially for his size. And as we all know, with that Michigan Wolverines team, they love to run the football. They ask their wide receivers to do a lot as run blockers, and Roman Wilson from the slot is an absolute dog. Take a look at his relative athletic score, and you look at the 40-yard dash times there. Everything is elite. The short area burst, the long speed is certainly there. 4.39 from somebody in the slot, so he can kill you with deep crossers. He's going to be a good run blocker for you. So if the Steelers are really looking for a really, really good slot cornerback to call their own for the next 10 years, Roman Wilson is probably the guy that they're going to be looking for. Plus, Roman has a personal relationship with Mike Tomlin, the Steelers head coach, that goes all the way back to his high school days. So I really think that Roman has Steeler written all over him, whether that be in round 2, if he falls to round 3, whatever the case may be. I think that he would be an excellent Pittsburgh Steeler. He's got the run blocking you're looking for, the route running acumen. I mean, Mike Tomlin was following him around in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. You can really tell he's enamored with his skill set. I would love to see him in black and gold. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Between these two options, which one would you rather do? All right, so would you rather go Terrion Arnold in round 1, or would you rather go Roman Wilson in round 2? Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comment section. If you could guarantee either one of these, which one are you taking? Type TA if you want Arnold in round 1, or RW if you want Roman Wilson in round 2. And again, guys, if you want more Steelers and NFL draft content in general on social media, you can find me at Jack_Sperry on X and at SpareDog.football. And again, every single person that gives me a follow on X this weekend is going to get a shout out on Monday's edition of Steelers Talk. So go ahead and get that done right now. And then if you do that, you'll have your name on the show on Monday. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, here we go, Steelers.